The first time I met Marlene Givens, she was standing on my front lawn with a clipboard tucked under her arm, and this look, like she was running for president of the United States, and had already won. She jabbed a finger at the mailbox I'd put in the weekend before, a heavy black steel one that I was pretty proud of, and she barked, "That's not compliant. You'll need to replace it." I blinked, kind of stunned, and asked, "Sorry, who are you again?" She puffed up like a blowfish and announced, "Marlene Givens, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association." I told her straight, "I'm not in your HOA." Her lips twitched, almost like she'd been slapped. She shot back, "Yes, you are. Every house in this neighborhood is." But I knew my property had never been annexed. I had checked it with my lawyer before I bought the place. Still, she glared at me like I'd just run over her cat and stomped off, muttering about legal action. I didn't think she was serious until a week later when I got served papers on my doorstep. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about a mailbox. It was about someone who wanted control, my life, my property, maybe even my peace of mind. She filed a lawsuit demanding over $4,000 in back dues and violations. When I called Joel, my lawyer and one of the sharpest guys I know, he actually laughed, but then said, "If she wants to play this game, let's play." And right then, I decided I wasn't going to roll over. The weeks leading up to the hearing were tense. Marlene wasn't content with waiting for the court date. She plastered a violation notice on my garage door accusing me of parking my work truck in my own driveway, then sent out a newsletter to the whole neighborhood labeling me a serial disruptor. My name was bolded, my address printed like I was some kind of wanted criminal. That was the day I put up cameras, one on the garage, one facing the yard. 3 days later, I caught Marlene and her vice president sneaking into my backyard, snapping photos like tabloid reporters. That's when I filed a police report. By the time court rolled around, I had a binder so thick it needed its own chair. Joel met me outside the courtroom grinning, flipping through our exhibits like a magician with a deck of cards. Inside, Marlene was already seated with a guy she introduced as her legal advisor, who looked like he bought his law degree off a website that also sold miracle vitamins. When the judge asked her to prove jurisdiction, she waved around some maps and claimed my property was inside her boundaries. Joel stood, calm as ever, and laid down the real documents: county zoning records, development plats, title histories. The judge's brow furrowed as he read. Then he said flatly, "Your association was formed in 2005. His house was sold in 2007. There is no annexation paperwork. You have no authority." For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Marlene's face. She tried to talk about the developer's intent, but the judge cut her down. Intent wasn't law. Then Joel pulled out the security footage of her trespassing and the defamatory newsletter. The courtroom went quiet except for the sound of the judge sighing. He reprimanded her for harassment, referred the case for civil rights review, and ordered an audit of the HOA. Marlene looked like someone had pulled the rug out from under her entire life. Now, I thought that would be the end of it, but that was only Act 1. The audit cracked open a nest of corruption. A former maintenance guy named Carl approached me with a phone full of scanned invoices, thousands of dollars paid to a landscaping company that never once showed up. The kicker? The company was a shell registered under Marlene's maiden name. That was fraud, plain and simple. Joel took it to the state attorney general's office, and soon enough, unmarked cars were parked outside Marlene's house. Agents carried out boxes of files, hard drives, even a tub labeled HOA Private. Her vice president resigned that same day. The so-called legal advisor vanished. His website disappeared overnight like he'd never existed. The trial that followed was surreal. Marlene, once queen of the cul-de-sac, now sat at the defense table with a public defender. Witnesses lined up to talk about bogus fines, threats, even forced foreclosures that turned out to be scams. One elderly man broke down on the stand. He'd lost his home because she invented a fake compliance council to approve liens. The names on the council? Deceased residents and people who never lived there. It was all fabricated. The jury didn't need long. Guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, embezzlement, aggravated theft. 6 years in prison. When she was let out in cuffs, I swear the entire neighborhood exhaled for the first time in years. Some clapped, others just shook their heads in disbelief. It wasn't joy, it was relief. But the fallout went further. Homes seized illegally were returned. Assets were liquidated to repay victims. State senators used our case as an example of why HOAs need oversight, even drafting a bill to stop leaders from ever pulling the same stunts again. The community changed too. We dropped the name Willow Creek entirely, voted to call ourselves Maple Glen, the original name before the HOA existed. No more newsletters, no more fines, no more patrols with clipboards. Just neighbors. For me, the shift was personal. I remember one morning trimming the hedges when an old vet with a limp walked over, toolbox in hand. He just said, "Thanks for standing up. You made it possible for the rest of us to breathe again." And I realized, this had never been about a mailbox. It was about power, about someone trying to weaponize rules to control people who just wanted to live their lives. The funny thing is, once the HOA vanished, the neighborhood actually came alive. People started organizing potlucks, cleanup days, even helping the elderly with groceries and yard work. No one needed fines or threats, just a little bit of respect and choice. A teenager came by not long ago, nervously holding a clipboard, asking if I'd help repaint the park benches. I laughed, nodded, and thought, this is what community is supposed to feel like. And yet, here's the part that sticks with me. Without someone like Marlene grabbing for control, we thrived. But I keep wondering, what if I hadn't fought back? What if I just paid her dues to make it all go away? How many more people would have been crushed under her rules, thinking they had no choice? That's the thought that keeps me up some nights. So now I'll put the question to you. Where's the line between order and control? Was Marlene just a power-hungry bully who finally got what she deserved? Or do you think HOAs serve a purpose and just need the right leadership? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I know this is a debate a lot of people have lived through. And if you've ever had your own HOA horror story, share it. I promise, you're not alone.